our host, Ali Saab, our invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum. As the President said in his introduction earlier this morning, the Prime Minister was supposed to be here today. Unfortunately, some unplanned matters came up, and he did say that if we could hold up the function until 3 o'clock, we would have been able to make it, but obviously we couldn't do that. What I'd like to do is just start off, given the fact that he was supposed to be here. I'd like to read a message that was published in today's Fiji Sun, which is a message from the Prophet, from the Prime Minister, and it goes like this. In Islam, Prophet Muhammad was the last of the prophets, whose birth we celebrate today. The public holiday to mark this occasion gives the Fijian Muslim community an opportunity to hold gatherings throughout the country to commemorate the day. It also gives all of us the chance to recognize, acknowledge, and share the teachings and life of Prophet Muhammad. Prophet Muhammad was a God-fearing man. He lived a very simple life despite access to worldly possessions. He was a humble man despite political power. He cared for the poor, the sick, and his neighbors, irrespective of their background. He practiced self-discipline through, amongst other things, prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. He was a just, fair, and honest man. He stood resolute in times of instability and threat. He believed in and practiced charity. He always emphasized the importance of seeking knowledge. He understood differences in society and emphasized the need to give rights to women, children, and minorities. The practices and values of Prophet Muhammad captivated millions and have stood the test of time. We all in contemporary Fiji need to constantly aspire to and practice these fundamental values and principles. The People's Charter for Peace, Change and Progress has at its central premise the objectives of a just and fair Fiji. It emphasizes honest and transparent leadership that is service and community focused. It creates a legal framework of a common and equal citizenry which will guarantee the equal application of rights and protection and support for the marginalized. The People's Charter has gained impetus from the various sources of teachings of faith and belief that we are fortunate to have in Fiji. It lends to a Fiji that is understanding, mature, and strong. Our acceptance of and ability to learn from the life of those such as Prophet Muhammad and other religious figures and teachings gives us the opportunity to utilize the strengths of all our citizens. It also makes us realize the many commonalities that cut across the diversity of faiths. I take this opportunity to wish all of you, and especially our fellow citizens in the Muslim community, a meaningful Prophet Muhammad's birthday. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the message from the Prime Minister to all Fijian Muslims and also non-Muslims who are led to believe, who actually recognize that there was a prophet in Islam called Prophet Muhammad. The national holiday that's been guaranteed in Fiji, like other national holidays for other faiths, helps us all to focus on this very auspicious occasion. What I would like to talk to you about very, very briefly, and you've had some very learned scholars who mentioned the life of the Prophet, the various nazams that have also been recited, the various specific messages that came out from the Prophet. What I would like to talk about very briefly is how do we apply that in our everyday lives as practical Muslims, as Fijian Muslims living in this country of our birth. And I think that is very, very important. We all live in this country. We all have a individual belief or faith. And today you're all Muslims who have a belief in Islam, who have a belief in the last prophet. But you also have a responsibility to your country. And that responsibility to your country, I believe, can be best manifested by you practicing the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It's very simple. And you can see that in the message that has been given by our Prime Minister, the values and principles that have been enshrined in the People's Charter, and what the Prophet taught and how he lived his life. If we were, the Quran says that this is the most beautiful pattern of conduct you will find in any person, which we must aspire to. If we were to aspire to that and follow those teachings and live the life as described in the Hadith and the Sunnah, then we would actually become not just good Muslims, but good citizens of this country. As one of the earlier speakers mentioned previously, that Islam was not spread through the sword. Today the largest Muslim populated country in the world is Indonesia. Indonesia was not colonized by the Arabs or by the Muslims. They made contact with the Arab traders. And today there's something like 230 million Muslims in Indonesia. The largest, bigger than the Indian subcontinent, bigger than the Middle East, Africa, wherever you go. The point being that the message of Islam, the message of the Prophet, actually was spread through conduct. And when we have a conduct that becomes inspirational, that becomes aspirational, then people will understand your religion better, then people will be able to understand you better, and you will then be able to contribute to Fiji as a Fijian Muslim society. And that sense of loyalty and dedication will be there. As also the last speaker mentioned, there are many different groupings now throughout the world in Islam. We in Fiji are very, very fortunate. We do not have violence that spreads through those divisions. We do not have major points of difference or flashpoints in those differences. Yes, there are some who are claiming to be rather, they preach Islam in a very demagoguery way, that everybody else is wrong and we are right. But what we have in Fiji also is that we have a very tolerant and understanding society in Fiji. My message to you today is, if you want to follow the teachings of the Prophet, you then will not get persuaded by the types of fundamentalism, by the types of extremism that's practiced in other parts of the world. Fiji is an island of peace and stability. And this is what we must continue to practice in Fiji. Fiji is a place where we Muslims are in a minority, yet your rights are protected. You are not discriminated against. Similarly, the Muslims must not discriminate against others, as the Prophet did not discriminate against others. We have been told numerous stories about how the Jewish lady used to throw rubbish on his head every day. Been told numerous stories about how he was concerned about his neighbors irrespective of their background. Yet, the manner in which he treated those who were different to him was in no way different to the manner in which he treated those who were similar to him or practiced the same faith. So we in Fiji are given that opportunity. We must not lose focus and track of that. I would like to congratulate the Maunatul Islam for holding this function every year. In fact, when the Prime Minister was going to attend this function, I had to give a very brief summary or background about Maunatul Islam. And just from what I can remember, I said to him, Maunatul Islam started off by a group of South Indian Muslims, some of whom spoke a different language, and therefore they got together and formed the association. The Maunatul Islam Association has always been one of those organizations that has been an integral part of our society. Not just the Muslim community, but as part of the greater Fijian society. And they have always been very open-minded and forward-looking. This is how the Maunatul Islam Association is portrayed in those people who belong to the association. I would like to urge you to continue with that spirit. I'd like to urge you to continue to invite, to tell people about Islam and the teachings of Muhammad Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. With those few words, I'd like to end my speech now. Thank you.